Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 8th, 2020 Caribou City Council meeting. Roll call. Councillor Yu and Councillor Tom have excused absences, and Doug, Joan, Nicole, Jody, and myself are present. Invocation. Okay. We pray for our country at all times, that all citizens are safe, healthy, and happy. We pray for the wisdom of all those who guide and govern. Help this government body in every situation to know and to do things that are right and just, with soundness of judgment in making vital decisions. We pray for the peacemakers, that the holy, life-giving Spirit may ever dwell in their hearts, and that the barriers of fear, suspicion, and hatred may fall. This we pray to the Holy Father. Excuse me. Amen. That was written by Tony Levesque from Fort Fairfield, and it's a prayer that Fort Fairfield has been saying in front of their town council meetings for years. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Item number 4, public forum. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, for allowing me to be here this evening. In case you don't know me, my name is John Morrill. I'm the owner of Custom Car Wash in Caribou. I come to you folks here tonight about a big problem, but I think I also have a possible solution. A solution that may not seem easily to attain, but it may help us in the long term solve the problem that we have. In case you didn't know, over the last 6 months, my business has been broken into twice, okay, in less than 6 months. It's resulted in over $80,000 worth of damage to my property, and thank God for insurance, fully insured, it's happened. Thanks to the excellent work by the Caribou Police Department, okay, both perpetrators have been arrested and now are incarcerated and waiting trial. I blame these break-ins on two things. I blame these break-ins on the blight and the plague that has invaded our community and seems to be spreading with no end in sight. The blight I'm referring to is the increased amount of homes that are turning into nothing but junkyards, with increased amounts of trash, junk cars, and other debris. And all neighborhoods in our city are affected. As you drive around the city, many are in plain sight and seem to be getting bigger. Why, I must ask, is this continuing? Is it because of not strong enough codes to prevent this from continuing? Or is it because the city doesn't have enough adequate manpower to enforce the codes to prevent this from continuing? That I ask you all. If it's due to one or the other, or both, then this needs to be addressed right away. And an answer has to be found. A solution needs to be found that will at least control this issue and stop more areas from being affected. Now on to the plague. The plague is being fed by people who would rather break into hard-working people's homes, businesses, vehicles, with nothing better to do but create harm and damage. Most of the time, this ends up costing us taxpayers in the form of higher insurance premiums and have to install adequate protection for our properties. Camera systems, alarm systems. Systems to make us feel safe from this plague. Our streets are dark at night, okay? A lot of the street lights have been turned off, and this allows the plague to use the cover of darkness to invade our properties and create destruction. It allows them to hide, not to be seen. Is this the right approach? Many streetlights have their ability to shed light hindered by overgrown branches and are useless. Whose job is that to take care of this? Why, during these times with LED lights, aren't we turning more on to at least give us more of a chance to stop the plague from moving under the cover of darkness? Why is our police department undermanned and has to spend more of their time dealing with this plague and having their hands tied? They know how to end this, but can't seem to have the proper tools to make us safer and keep our neighborhoods from being run over by this plague. If it's cause of money, In my mind, it would be a better valued expense to invest in them, bring this crime under control, and hopefully put the plague back where it came from. Both these are related. The plague survive in blighted areas. They hide there with the help of their friends. They're able to escape the watching eyes of our police and continue to grow. They look out for each other with no remorse for the rest of us hardworking citizens. They are in their own world. They use the blighted areas to hide what they steal, make it so that if you want to find something, you have to pick through the mounds of trash. They even hide the trash to escape. These issues need to be addressed. We need you as councilors to look at this as one of the most important issues in our city. Put aside your agendas for what you may feel is best and to really look at what is happening while bickering about other things. In closing, I will say that I look at paying taxes and rent, and my landlord is you guys. All landlords must ensure that the environment they are being paid for is clean, safe, clean, and will cause no undue harm to their tenants. I think we are missing the boat here. Is the approach to be what the city can't provide for me with the rent that I pay you to use that amount to get what I'm supposed to get? Tell me. So I thank you. I've ranted enough, but I think you see my frustration. Why must this continue? I've taken measures to prevent this from happening again, to hopefully make sure that it does and it won't result in so much destruction. The sad thing about the whole deal is, in my case, is that both perpetrators basically gained about $1,000 in cash, but resulted in $80,000 worth of damage to my business, which is protected by cameras and alarm system, but they fly underneath the darkness. Now, my solution is pretty kind of dramatic. It's kind of different. Of course, it all comes down to money. Okay, we can try to defund departments and try to save money here and there, but the problem is maybe it's time for us to acquire a department that actually, instead of being an expense account on your line item budget, could possibly be a revenue. And I suggest to the city of Caribou that it's time to take over the Caribou Utilities District. I think that it's a strong words that I'm saying, but I think that that department, or that venue, I guess I'll call it, was created by the city of Caribou to give us revenue and to also give us a cheap utilities. Now, what's ever happened, I don't know. But I know I look at your line item budgets every year, and the money we're paying to them could be better spent here in our city. So I say to you, what I'm saying is probably a little bit forthright, but I think it's something that you need to address as a council. And again, I go back to codes and enforcement, and if the codes in our community are laxed, and we don't have enough strong codes to allow our code enforcement officer to go out and do his job, then we got to change something. I look at our sister city up the road a little ways who are battling the same disease and problems that we have. And I see they're taking a stronger stance. I see that they're trying to do what they can do. And again, I realize resources are limited, but you have to address it. I mean, if you drive by anywhere in this community and see this blight that's happening in our community, it's sad. And if you see the plague that is going on with it, it's even more terrible. One last comment, and I won't take any more of your time, and I thank you for having me here. Many years ago, there was a plague that hit our community. It was a very, very bad plague, actually. And city leaders, stepped up to help address it. There was meetings that were held. There was solutions that were trying to come forth. They weren't always the right ones, but city leaders actually stood up to take a stance what was happening in our community. And I don't know if any of you remember it, but I remember it vividly because I lived it. And what I'm seeing now is that this plague and this is just totally taken over, and it's time for us to do something. And I just hope that you have sincerity in your heart and have the love for the city of Caribou, which I have. I've been in business 35 years, or almost 40, and that have never experienced anything like this in my life. And I'm not blaming the city. I'm not blaming anybody for what happened. It happened because it happened. And I've had to take protections to prevent it, as well as other businesses have had to do it. The sad thing is, and I will stop my rant after this, the gentleman, or the perpetrator, I guess, that broke into my business this last time was probably responsible for $250,000 worth of damage, in the city of Caribou in the 3-week run. And that's realistic. And I would go on record to say that. And the thing is, okay, even though everybody in their hearts were trying to catch him, the blight hit him. The blight hit him, and the blight can't him protect him. So if we're going to get one, we're going to have to get the other. So, but I thank you for the time this evening, and I hope I didn't say anything out of line, but I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Good evening, Council. Jim Bacon, Bacon Auto and Truck. I own a business in Washburn Street. I own 44 Washburn Street, which is a rental. 151 Washburn Street, which is rental. I own 5 Brook Street, which is my home. And I owned a farm out on the River Road. And I've lived here all my life. And I've never thought that I could get in a situation like this with a rental that I bought, which is my fault completely. I started this venture, bought the house October last year, renovated it, the inside. Got it rented in February to a couple. And about a month and a half in, the sewer started backing up into the basement. So I had my plumber go twice and snake it. And everybody was telling me they were getting about 27 to 30 feet out, and it just stops. So it's telling me that we thought maybe it was frozen because it was that time of year where stuff freezes. Well, it didn't end up to be that. It's my pipe's gone in front of that building. And I got talking to a few contractors to see, I figure $5,000-6,000 to put a new pipe in. But after I got talking to them and after I got dig safed it, it's a complete disaster in front of that house. The sewer main itself is 14 feet deep. So that's a cut of, it's not just a regular backhoe to put a pipe in. This is like a big excavator, shut the road down, 30-foot cut to get to this sewer main, which is uncommon. 14 feet's uncommon, but we believe after the years that street has been built up that much over the years. So I tried everything. Ken Allen, I called. He come and they can pull pipes through other pipes, but they still have to get on the both ends to pull it. So they can get in my cellar and pull it, but they still have to dig the street down to the main to pull it through. Well, he doesn't have the equipment. Of course, there's only a few around that has like that sort of equipment. So he said he couldn't help me. So I went to a meeting down at the CUD. And I felt like I was, it was really a joke, really. I mean, it was just no, it's all on you. It doesn't matter what it costs. You're too close to the line. You have to put your own in, or you have to hook on to us. So what I did is I've been talking here and there, and like I said, this has been going on since April. And I've been going and trying to see what I could do, and then I called Ken down here, and I'm like, what about putting my own out back? Well, he said in certain situations, the town will let you do that. I'm like, well, that's good. So I called Bill Hersey, had him go evaluate it, and he said, yeah, I can put a system back here. I had enough room. I don't have a lot of property there, but I had enough room to put my tank in and my leach field. So I had him design me a system. And I had Dick St. Peter was going to do it for me. Well, this has been going on and on and on. So Dick, the last 2 weeks, has been trying to get the permit because he has to pay a permit to put it in. Well, I thought I was all set to put my own in. But now that I found out last Thursday, not from the city, not from anybody else, but Dick actually come to me and said, Jimmy, they're not going to let you put that in. I guess we have a new LPI, licensed plumbing inspector, and now I guess he's decided that he didn't think it should be put in, which is the cost to me is about $9,000 to put my own septic system in. The cheapest thing that I got, I would have never believed that this could cost this much to do. I paid $56,000 for the house, And that I got these contractors that won't even write it down. They said, we won't write it down. It's time material. This is a disaster. Telecommunications, drainage, water pipes, next door neighbors' water pipes, this and that. And it's like, nobody even wants to touch it. They don't even want nothing to do with it. They're giving me, I don't want to do it prices. So I did get, Alan got back to me and said, look, I want to try something, never done it before. So he said, I want to just cut a square hole. See, the main is across the street from me in the other lane from my house. So he said, I think I can cut and take my sucker truck and suck down to that line. And if he could get down there, that he could pull a new one through. But he said that, I want to give you a price. But he said, I won't write it down. He said, I'll do it for $28,000. So I've gotten prices from 28 to 38. And then, once we get there, who knows? I drill into that 1930s pipe, it could explode, and then you're into a whole other situation. I had no idea that. I thought I was to the curb, but this changed in 2009, where the homeowners are to the main. So I was all set to go. I spent my $600 to get my own plan for the back, and now I guess this Brandon Saucier has decided that he doesn't want me to do it, which I had permission from the city, not written. I talked to Ken. Ken said, yeah, in certain situations we can let you do it. And he said, this seems to be a good situation because of the expense. Well, now I've called and asked them, what is a good situation? They said, well, cost isn't a good situation. It's not a good, because cost, you still have to do it. I'm like, well, I'm at my wit's end with this. I bought this home. I'm trying to make a few dollars and have a place for people to stay and fix some places up, and I just can't get a thing done in this town. It's really discouraging, it really is. And it's like one person tells me one thing, then another. I'm spending more money and more money. And now Pine Tree Legal's after me. The tenants want to know what is going on. I've been all this time, and I'm still trying, and I thought I had it done. Dick wanted to do it 2 weeks ago, but they won't give him a permit. So he can't do anything until he gets a permit. So that's my spiel tonight, and I just wanted to let everybody know. And I know I've talked to numerous people in this community. Nobody realized that this could happen to somebody, that it could cost this much to replace a pipe. I mean, the pipe's literally 40 feet long. We're talking $1,000 a foot to put a pipe in. And then when I talked to the CUD, and like I said, I had very bad deal with them. It was just no, nothing. That's not up to us. That's all on you. And never tried to meet me halfway or try to help me. It was really something that I just never seen anything like it. That somebody that could treat somebody like that, and I'm paying them to do a service for me, which we're paying triple what we were 10 years ago, and we're getting half the service. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Something's got to change there. Yeah, and Mr. Kirkpatrick is one of the worst person I've ever dealt with. He has no people skills at all. It's just no. Call him, won't call me back. It's just been an on and on thing since April. And here we are, we're getting, 60 days in? I got to do something. I've already told my lawyer to contact Pine Tree and tell them that what the situation I'm in, so I'm going to have to evict them and let the property sit, because it's no good without a sewer. It's no good at all. So and I still have to pay the taxes on it. I still got to heat it, and I got to figure something out for next year, I guess, to figure out what I'm going to do here. It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't seem like there's no common sense with anything here. It doesn't. But that's my spiel tonight. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope somebody could get back to me. I don't know who will, if the town manager will or something, but I just don't know what to do. I'm not at my wit's end. The eviction notice is in the mail. They're gonna have to go, because I just don't think I'm gonna be able to get it done this year. And I can do 9,000. You can't put that kind of money in an old home like that. I'll never recoup my money. I might as well let it sit. It doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. And I got next month. What's coming next month? I got a $14,000 check to write to the city of Caribou. It's come on now. somebody's got to do something about this, you know. But thank you for listening to me, and that's what I've been going through, this stress all summer. I thought for sure I had it licked, but it was to the last guy. And this new guy says, no, you're too close to the main. You got to go to the main, no matter what the cost is. Then I asked them, I'm like, why? What's a good reason? They said, well, we just did one, but they had to cross a brook to get to it. So we decided that was a good reason. I'm like, well, what's something like that cost? That was a cost-effective thing, right? Well, yeah, I guess it was. So I'm like, well, I have a cost-effective same thing here. It's not cost-effective for me to put a pipe in. I might as well do my own system, you know. But yeah, it just doesn't seem that there's zero common sense here on what's going on, and especially, is it me? You know what Hugh tells me? He goes, well, let's hook onto your neighbors. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, I'm not going to ask somebody to hook onto the sewer line. I mean, that would be on me then. I'd have to be responsible. This is what I'm getting for answers. It doesn't make any sense. Really, there's no common sense at all. I just don't know, guys. Something's got to go on down to that CUD. That this is not good. Not good at all. But thank you, and I'll be talking to somebody, I guess.
You're going to have a seat for just a second?
Sure.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. So I got a couple things. First, on the fire hydrants. Our fire hydrant costs have gone up 10% in 3 years. And I agree totally with John. We need to turn it over to the city and recoup our money out of that. And $60,000 a year just to clean the hydrants. They're their hydrants. If I rent a car, they fix it. It's their hydrants, they should clean it. It's not our responsibility. If we're not going to turn over the CUD to the city, then they should clean their own damn hydrants. I'm sorry, that's a lot of money, and this council can use that money for the good of this town. Secondly, there was a recent incident at the Legion where a ultralight flew into a power pole as well as the pole there. And I could care less what damage he did to the Legion. We're taking care of that ourselves. My issue became, and I sat and spoke with Mr. Marker, was the man had no insurance, and he's flying over our town. Why? Why is that allowed? Why is the man allowed to take an ultralight into the air and potentially cause more damage than a simple RV or a simple snowmobile would cause hitting one person? His paraglider alone, if it landed in the middle of Sweden Street on Sweden Street days, could have taken out multiple people, and the parachute killed or dragged children down the street. It took me forever just to find out how I was going to get a police report. I'd gone to the city, the state, forestry, customs, border patrol, Senator Collins, the town manager, the FAA, and no one seemed to have an answer as to why the man is allowed to fly unrestricted and nobody takes responsibility, not even himself, over the fact that he didn't have insurance. When he hit the transformer itself, the bottom fell out. 200-gallon natural gas tank was underneath it. If the bottom would have hit the actual feed-in that went into the building, exposing the gas, we have constant gas going in for the pilot light, it could have exploded the building. It wouldn't have taken the building, it would have taken the block. So my opinion is somebody needs to figure out, anybody coming into this town over our heads, how exactly are we going to ensure that they're insured? That they're taking responsibility for themselves as well as our town. Allowing also a community member to speak badly and accuse EMTs of something that was wrong should never have been allowed. He insulted them as well as spoke from the gallery, which never should have been allowed according to Robert's Rules of Engagement. Once he left the podium, that should have been it, unless he was called back, which he was not. He insulted them, and he was invited to sit on a committee by you, sir, and after he insulted them, he was allowed to sit on his committee, but why? If anybody else had done that, would have they been allowed to sit on the same committee? I doubt it. So I went to Mr. Marker and handed him a letter stating that I would, at this point, any committee formed on behalf of any employee in this city that is a union, my union brothers and sisters, that I support 100%, I will be on that committee. I want to be appointed to that committee from here on out. That's my statement for that. Also, my last point is, several years ago, I was given an award by this town on behalf of Lisa Wilcox, who nominated me for this award. Mr. Morrell called me out and saying that I was a self-opposed Citizen of the Year, Volunteer of the Year, whatever he said on Facebook. Just so you people know, this town runs on volunteers. It has more volunteers than employees in the form of Boy Scout leaders, Girl Scout leaders, firemen, gardeners, our Kiwanis Club, the museum volunteers, library volunteers, veterans, the VFW Legion, and countless others. Since one is interested in name calling and using a previous award as such, I feel that the award is tainted toward anybody it is now presented to, simply because we don't agree on politics. Just because your politics don't agree with mine
Doug,
doesn't mean you should taint an award that is given because somebody busts their butt in this town. So, here's your award. Thank you.
You're not leaving before I have a chance to speak, are you? Sit down and relax.
Sir, I don't need to sit down and relax.
Sit down and relax. I have a comment for you.
any other public forum? Danielle, we have a letter.
We do. Okay, so this is, okay. So this is from Gary Aiken at 471 Main Street. He says, I have 3 questions for council tonight. During my term on council, for transparency's sake, we could put the complete monthly financials on the city's website, with the line-by-line expenses and revenues for each department shown for everyone to see. I've noticed now the council only receives a summary by department, and that is all that is published on the website. I would have thought that a council who has mentioned so many times about the need to monitor the expenses in the city would want to see the details every month and know what's going on, but apparently not. I personally want to see them, so please advise if the complete financials will be published online starting next month as they were in the past. Number 2, while we are looking at transparency, and we should be, especially the city council members, would you please tell me what part of the main statutes, Title 1, Chapter 13, subsection 405, allows you to go into executive session to sell tax-acquired property, which is on tonight's agenda? This statute also states, a motion to go into executive session must indicate the precise nature of the business of the executive session and include a citation of one or more sources or of statutory or other authority that permits an executive session for that business. In addition, Title 1, Chapter 13, 4056C, discussion or consideration of the condition, acquisition, or the use of real estate personal property permanently attached to real estate property interest therein, or disposition of publicly held property or economic development, only if premature disclosures of the information would prejudice the competitive or bargaining position of the body or agency, which is clearly not an issue here. Please follow the rules. Number 3, regarding item number 9 on tonight's agenda, Community Improvement Program. It states, as drafted, the Community Improvement Program would be available to all businesses in the city without regard for location and would start next year. Does this mean that anyone doing business out of their own home, such as accountants, would be able to get their house painted and be eligible for a grant to cover part of the cost from the city? It also states that applicants must be property owners or tenants with the property owner's written consent. Does this mean that if I own 10 different business locations in the city of Caribou, I can have all my tenants apply for a grant for their location and reimburse them for their share, thereby improving my real estate holding as the at the taxpayer's expense? It also states in this grant program that the city is authorized by the state to have a community improvement grant program using funds from increment funds collected each year. If that is the case, why is it stated that at the beginning that if the intent is to merely provide a funding opportunity for businesses outside of the TIF district that matches the facade improvement program, then the only question that needs to be addressed is the amount of funds to make available. There seems to be a contradiction there. If the TIF funds can be used for this, which I doubt, why are we implementing another program, which I think has a lot of loopholes in it? Lastly, if the program is instituted, I think that it should include that sitting council members and their immediate families are not eligible for any grants available. Number 4, in closing, I would like to come to council to bring up a number of issues, but I have noticed that there are a number of councilors that do not wear a mask. Do we have a policy for this, or can everyone just do what they want? I realize if someone is going to speak for clarity, that they might not want to wear the mask. But during public input, they should be worn. You know the old saying, if you're talking, you can't be listening. If you're really interested in the opinions of the electorate during public input, you should be listening. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Anything else from anybody else? Okay. I'll bring item number 4, the public forum, to a close. Jim, would you mind? Can I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
So we're looking at it like you're saying an 11-foot cut, 15-foot cut, was it?
Actually, they're telling me that the sewer main is 14 feet deep, but to do it correctly, to hook onto it, you really got to dig 16 feet. And the cut, that would be like pretty much a 325 excavator, something pretty big.
Yeah.
And then it's got to be double trench box because the trench
Right,
box only
got
so
it.
high. So this is like not a regular
No.
thing. This isn't like you
Okay.
take a backhoe. This is like quite a construction thing
And
to
I
do.
just want to clarify this before we dive too
Yeah,
far into
yeah,
it. Is it because of the elevation of your house and the sewer line that makes this difference?
None of
Or
us can
is it,
really-
you mentioned something about the road has been built up? Is that the cause? I
Well,
mean,
if
at
you
one time,
remember, if you-
excuse me, at one time it must have been put in at 6 feet.
I would think so. Because who puts sewer mains that low?
Right,
And
that's
I
the point.
ask people this, why is that one so deep? And that's what we've come up with. Remember that, if you remember, I remember this. I grew up on Robert Street and Trussell, that area. We had all them tracks down there. And if you remember the old coal place down there, tracks used to go down in front of that house at one time or down near there. And I think over the years that the B&A brought that all up and fixed the road. But when they did that, it made all of us, lower. So, but if you look at my driveway, it's it goes down to get into the garage. I mean, there's quite an elevation difference. But probably when that house was built, it probably, was 8 or 10 feet or whatever. It probably was. But over the years, they've just built the road and did this and that. And
Any other neighbors have the similar situation
They're
on
all
either
having-
side of you, or
all of
that
them.
deep?
All of them. And everybody's having the same problem. The Hugh wanted to hook on to the next door neighbors, so I'm like, well, I want to talk to John Noble did it. And one of the guys that did it is still there. So I talked to him about it. He goes, yeah, we did that. He goes, we went from her house. She has a little house, like it used to be a barn, then she has an apartment building right there. Well, she had replaced hers from both houses to the curb, but decided not to do that because of the cost and how deep it was. So she did her to the curb thing. Well, when they put the pipe in, they said they got the whole new one in. They couldn't keep it without half full of water all the time. Well, the problem is the Orangeburg out in the road is collapsing, is what it is. Orangeburg is 65 years, and we're at 70. So it is time. It's time. I don't know if other people on my street are all at 14 feet, but I know where I am. That's what they're telling me. And then, because when I had the CUD come, they're like, oh my God, that's way deep there. you know, and it's like, I'm like, how can it be? Would they put a pipe in 14 feet deep? Way back then, what did they have for machines? But it was the road's been built up is what the problem is, I'm pretty sure, and that's what they're telling me. And I've got flags there from DigSafe that they don't even know what it is. And then I asked CUD or whatever if they have any records, and they really don't. They said, they told me, they said, look, Jimmy, we look down here. I mean, if you go in front of that house, you see the marks we put there, where all this stuff is crisscrossing. And he goes, well, you could pretty much hit about anything down there, probably. This is what they tell me.
Well,
I'm like, I can't believe that this company that we pay to do is talking to me like this. I just can't believe it. That it's like, I was dumbfounded. I was. So after I went to the meeting down at CUD, and then we had there's 6 or 8 of the people there, and then they, at the end they said, well, Mr. Bacon, what would you like us to do? I'm like, I want you to fix the pipe. I'll go to the road. I'll do my part. But I don't believe that I need to go 14 feet deep and have a major construction thing here. I don't think that should all be on me. I really don't. I mean, I can't believe that they don't have like emergency money set aside for certain situations when people run into this. I can see $6,000-8,000 to put a pipe in. Well, that's doable. But, you know, 28, 58,000, and then nobody will even write it down for me. They said, we don't want nothing to do with, they don't want to do this, the main thing. But they'll, like, I had Carl down there, and Carl says, and he's the biggest guy we get up here. He goes, I don't want nothing to do with it. He goes, I'll do it, Jimmy, but it's time material. That's all I can tell you. It is what it is, you know? And then, like, CUD, they can't do anything about it. They don't have a piece of equipment that will go that deep. This is like a special thing, you know? Larry could probably do it. Dick could probably do it, because Dick will do about anything. So he would try anyway. He'd probably break everything, but he probably would try. And he probably, if I asked him, he probably would do it. But that's Dick, you know. But he would much rather put my system out back, is what he'd probably do, and that's what I want him to do. You know, and it's $9,000, but I that's not, you know, we got to do what we got to do. I bought an old house. Probably should have had it scoped. Nobody thinks of that. I guarantee I will next time. This won't happen to me again.
well, I'll say one thing. You are paying, I mean, you volunteered your tax bill, and you are paying for a service.
I am.
So
And I
there's
can't
got to be
believe-
something done.
There's got to be
There's
something that
got
they
to
can
be
do.
some
Yeah.
give
I mean,
and
they
take
go and they
from
spend
different-
$5.5
from
million
different
out there
people.
on that pond. I mean, they can't set something aside. I mean, like the old lady next door to me. I mean, me is one thing. You know, I'll let the place sit, whatever. But, I mean, 80 years old. I mean, she's not going to be able to afford that. What are they going to do? Most of the people on my road are old. You know, they can't afford something like that. Something's got to be done. There's got to be some infrastructure pieces put in or something here. But, you know, and then I just don't understand, you know, it's why they're... And then to talk to them guys, I'm telling you. Yeah, I've been in business a long time, and I deal with insurance companies all the time, and I thought they were the worst. They got to run for their money down there for sure. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Well, thanks for bringing this up. First time
Thanks,
I heard
guys.
about it.
I know.
And
I called you a couple times, but I figured that you were busy out there golfing out there.
when
so,
did you call?
I called Friday. I was all
Listen,
I was all hyped up with it.
My SIM card broke
Oh, it
like
did?
Thursday or something, and I got it fixed today. My apologies. I would have answered your phone. I would have answered your phone. Well, I answered all
Called
the phone
everybody.
calls.
John, oh geez, our representative. Of course, these guys are all state guys. They're like, Jimmy, there ain't much you can do. Troy, I called Troy. You know, how you doing, Jimmy? I'm like, well, I ain't doing too good right now, Troy. And he's like, oh, geez, I gotta, you know. And then Troy said he's going to call you to see what. But he said this is all state stuff. And then I actually called the state that keeps an eye on these guys. Well, they said, well, there's nothing we can do. All we do is water. No, nothing to do with sewer.
Yeah, that's true there.
I mean, every place I called was like geez, I don't know what to tell you. USDA. Well, we might be able to get you a micro loan or a low interest loan. I said, I don't want a loan. You know, it's, it's just, I don't know. Boy, it's been quite a summer. I'm telling
Well,
you.
thanks for
And then I
bringing-
got the Pine Tree Legal. Now they're after me, so I'm.
Wow.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
We're going to look into it, Jim.
All right.
We're going to look into it. Doug?
Who is, Dennis, who is Brandon Saucier?
He's our contracted licensed plumbing inspector.
He works for the city.
Yes. He's a contract employee.
He left before did Jim say that at first he said okay and then changed his mind?
I'll get with the staff tomorrow. I'll find out what's going on.
Because, this is ridiculous. This is the poster child for failure in this community, and we're all guilty of it sitting here. In this case, it's ridiculous. We got to do something.
Okay. I wanted to say a few comments about John's comments, but he left, so I'll get in touch with him. Before we go on to item number 5, I want to make a statement about at the last Caribou City Council meeting on August 24th, we had a public hearing in which a statement was made. I thought about it, and I got up the next morning and I typed myself an apology, and I emailed it to my fellow councilors. I thought about it, and then, like I do, I sat on it for a day, and I told Dennis it came about in a conversation. I told Dennis to pass the entire letter to the men of the fire department, of the ambulance department, of which he did. And I like to read my letter publicly, as it was a public statement that was made. I have a friend, and I've known this friend for about 30 years. Over these 30 years, I've known that my friend has strong political views and strong views on how life should be lived. My friend in the past has backed up these views with sometimes educational facts on a particular issue. Oddly enough, my friend's predictions most often come true. My friend has a kind heart, and if you were to become close to my friend, I'm positive that you would see and sense that trait in him also. My friend has very little problem-solving technique within his demeanor. My friend enjoys the battle more than he does in trying to achieve any goal. My friend is odd that way. My friend's soul lost its best friend about a year ago and is in search of reason and life. A soul that is lonely and most likely hurting. A feeling and hurting that I myself will feel someday if Farmer Gloria were to leave me first. I'm going to give my friend grace and support while going through this period of their life on earth. On the same letter, different paragraph. On another subject, last night's meeting had 3 people speak during public forum. I want to say that there is a reason that professional people will say, when addressing a council, keep your comments short and to the point. After about 5 minutes, I have developed an ability to listen to just the gist of the point or points being made. As mayor, right or wrong, I have to admit this fact. At the end of last council's meeting, Dennis mentioned that he did not appreciate Wilford's comments. I asked what the comments were, and he told me. I want to say that I must have heard it, but it did not register in my brain. I had turned Wilford off 5 minutes prior because he went on and on. But I'm going to give myself an F- on this one. It got by me. My dad would say, Mark, don't be afraid to back up. We Gons are not that perfect. And I've got to back up. The men of the Caribou Fire Ambulance Department are due an apology. I have and will always admire the professional way in which they perform their jobs. Any other issues are not the subject of this letter. The mayor needs to apologize, and in the end I put that I will go for a walk in the woods to figure this out. And basically what I've said is I wanted to get alone and see what God was telling me. To the men and women of the Caribou Fire and Ambulance, you have my deepest apologies for not saying something as the mayor of Caribou about a comment that was not right from a gentleman that's struggling. My apologies. And I want to thank the council. Item number 5, City Council minutes. The July 15th meeting, and it's my understanding that we have an amendment. But how we'll do this is Chair will accept the motion. Does everyone have a copy of the amendment? It's on the back of it's page 2 of your agenda. Amend the July 15th minutes to correct the property tax amount to be collected by the city as $3,355,672.32 rather than the previously indicated amount of $8,089,097.66. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the July 15th meeting with the amended motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jody, seconded by Nicole. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Danielle, for catching that one for us. Keep an eye on us, please. Item number 5B, July 27th, regular City Council meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Moved by Jones, seconded by Doug. Any comments, questions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. August 10th, regular council meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Moved by Jones, seconded by Jody. Any comments, questions, additions, or subtractions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion carries. Danielle, I'm going to give you a copy of that little letter I wrote, and would you please have it submitted into the minutes of tonight's meeting? Thank you very much. Number 6, bid awards, recognitions, and appointments. Tax acquired property bid award for 32 Fenderson Street. Congratulations, Bill. A long struggle, huh? Long struggle. Wait a minute, let me find it. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved. Accept the bid for $4,500 at 32 Fenderson Street.
Moved by Jody, seconded by Joan to accept the bid of $4,500. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Financials, July. Dennis.
Councilors, in your packet is as was discussed in Mr. Aiken's letter. This is a summary of the financials. We have in the past provided more detailed financials to those counselors requesting that. It certainly doesn't take much to put the full details into the packet if you want to continue to do that, as we did in the past. Part of that is saving the trees a little bit. But in the information tonight, just to highlight a few things, we are at 58% through the year with this financial statement. This is the end of July. It's a little bit late because we had to wait for the city council to determine the $170,000 and 1 penny from a couple of meetings ago. And so this is coming to you a little bit late. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time necessarily on this because at your next meeting you'll have the August financials, and we're getting close to the end of the month of September. But just to highlight, under the current balance of the assets, under the general assets of the city, you'll see that we've had quite a bit of jump. In the month of July, we're sitting at $13.6 million of assets. Most of that was with the tax commitment and being able to get notices out. And so on the books, you'll see that we have a large increase of assets because of the obligation to pay taxes. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have a large of cash on hand. In fact, in the month of July, at the end of July, we had what we consider our cash flow line, available cash of $1.6 million. And as far as the cash in the bank. And so because we've the timeliness of setting the mill rate and also due to some reduced costs during the pandemic season, we haven't had to worry about any kind of letters of credit or anything for covering our bills this year so far. Under the page 15, just to highlight a few things here, you'll notice, as I mentioned, that we have our taxes receivable lines now. And so you'll see that for taxes receivable in 2020, we have our dollar amount in there of $313,000. I also wanted just to highlight in these statements, you'll see that there are still dollar amounts owed from previous years. You have, for instance, 2018 tax receivables, 2016 liens receivables, 2010 personal property tax receivables. These are monies that we continue to carry over on the finance lines, hoping to get resolution through the courts, not finding much resolution, and at some point, what typically happens is we get to the end of the year. If we can see that we've got a little bit of money left over, then we can try to write off some of these receivable accounts that we're not being able to clean off the books through our other processes. So just being mindful of those lines. As far as our liabilities, our liabilities are still near the same $9.5 million. And you'll see one of the things to point out here, if you're looking at it closely, you'll see that there are some large negative numbers as far as our liabilities are concerned. For instance, this line has a negative $115,000 on it. That's because we've already made the payment on the fire engine that we were required to pay, but we haven't moved the funds over from the revenue side as far as the taxes receivable to cover that reserve line. And so that will become a positive number after we, through the accounting processes, move money over. And so in the month of August, we should be able to see these numbers turn back around, but that's what it is. We've paid large amounts out of the reserve funds, and as the taxes and the commitment process takes place, those funds will be made whole again. As far as the general fund balances, currently we're sitting at a fund balance, net fund balance of $4.1 million. Our summary of expenses year to date, or not year to date, sorry, by the end of July, we were at 49.8, almost 50% of expenses, being 58% through the year. And so, again, some of the things that we're missing or that haven't taken place yet. In the month of July, we didn't have some of our bills for Public Works asphalt that was resolved yet. We still have to move capital expenditures over to reserve lines. That's an expense that will hit those lines as well. So again, we continue to watch that number very closely. The revenues, you'll see a bigger number of 64.5% of revenues. Again, 58% through the year. That looks like a good number, but most of that is, again, because of the tax commitment process and seeing a huge jump in our revenues by the books. And that number will, we anticipate, continue to hopefully not fall too much by the end of the year, but we will see things coming in over the next several months with taxes due, and be able to give you a better idea of where we're at. As I mentioned to you before, by charter, September 15th is the deadline for the annual historical report. That will give the council an idea of projections of revenue and expenses for the remainder of the year, and where we're sitting as of September 15th. And so next Monday night, we should be able to deliver that. We will deliver that report to you, so you can see where we're sitting as far as financially, and the department heads are reviewing those numbers as well, so we can get you a good report on that. We've included, as you requested, some of the companies that we've been spending some money at over the course of the month from the different departments. If you've got any questions, I can try to answer those. Mayor?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Joan.
I got a
Speak up.
question. I got a question on number 80, towards the end. Account 80.
80
General
account.
account. $6,700 to Daniel Penalatori, I guess, political donation fund. What is that?
Which page of the
Do you know where she's looking?
It's page 38.
Page 38.
38?
Thank you.
Oh, under the, okay, got it. Under the warrants list,
Yes.
number, page 38.
Right up at the top.
There, yeah.
political donations fund. I'll get back to you on that one.
Is that what POL stands for, political?
Looks like a
I-
POLDON fund.
That's a bad title, if that's what it stands for. It
I
doesn't
didn't
even look
see
good on there.
anything else on this that was the only thing I saw.
366.
That's been right on that line
Police.
every year.
I'll check. It's coming out of a reserve account, not as an operational account, so I'll check into that. See what that is.
Any other comments or questions? Chair will entertain a motion to accept the financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jody, seconded by Joan, to accept the financial report with an explanation at a later date on what Joan brought up. Any other comments, questions, additions, subtractions? All those in favor? Motion carries. See, having that warrants list, makes you
It
get.
was a lot of reading, but I thought, oh,
Well, no, you get to look at it. I'll be frank with you, I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to go down through much of it, but as you sit here, and you see some of these things, yeah, very good.
Is that something that's going to continue?
What's that, the warrants, yeah.
Maybe a grant or something for the police.
It was my hope that the warrants deal, after you get 3 or 4 months, that you could then follow certain cycles. And then after a year, you can then follow trends based on, like, for instance, in your revenue, you said 63%, and the large jump is due because of the tax committal. Well, okay, but where were we last year at this time? 63%? You know, it'd be normal, and that was the point of the warrants, is to see where our expenditures are normally, but it takes literally a year to build on it. So, and that's what the point of starting it was. Item number, okay, is that it for financials? Okay. Public hearing. Ordinance 4, 2020 Sears, amending the liquor license review process. Open up the meeting. Well, first you like to say something about it.
Councilors, we discussed this during your last council meeting. The ordinance would simplify the process for a business seeking a renewal or an expansion of their liquor license. We could handle it administratively. Currently, those licenses have to come to you as a council, and that means delay for a lot of these businesses as far as waiting for agendas and periods. And so this ordinance makes it so, again, administratively, we can handle that in-house, typically in a matter of 1 or 2 days, rather than having to wait to put it on the council agenda. The ordinance still would require and follow state statute that a new liquor license will have to come to the council for a public hearing. The ordinance also provides that if through the renewal process we find that there's an issue with a license, before this administration cannot renew that, if there's issues, that has to come back to you as a council for review as well. But typical customary procedures, we can just handle that in-house now rather than delay businesses in doing these.
Chair will open up the floor for public hearing at 7:03. Anybody from the public wish to speak? Hearing none, close the public hearing at 7:04. Any questions or comments from the council? Doug?
Dennis has the summation together, and I just want to make my opinion on the matter. That I think this would be a good move on the council's part and the city to streamline something that can get bunged up. But I am also concerned, and Dennis addressed this, I just want to put it into the record, that I want to make sure that the city employee base does not have the right to tell somebody no. It has to come to the council for that. Standard procedure, if I understood what Dennis said, standard stuff and everybody's doing good, fair enough. But if it comes to having to say no, I think the council should be the one to review it and make the decision of no from the council chamber. Just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Do we need a motion to to have a public hearing? We had the public hearing. Now you send it to the lawyer, or is it, we don't have to do this one?
If the council wants to adopt the ordinance as written, you just need a motion.
You gotta close the hearing first, right? Close
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Didn't I close
Oh, you
it?
did close it, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to accept ordinance number 4.
Second.
That's all I need to say, right?
Yeah. Moved by Jody, seconded by Joan. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Under new business, 9A, Community Improvement Program. Dennis.
As directed by the council, we drafted an improvement program similar to the facade improvement program that, just maybe to back up and address the question that was raised by Mr. Aiken earlier today, the TIF funds, whenever we have a TIF district that gets created by the city has to submit a program to the state for approval. And that program includes what we're going to do with these different funds, whether it be for advertising purposes, trails, business enhancements, loans, grants. And the state, in the particular program of the downtown TIF district, said that there are some of the TIF funds that we would collect during the life of this TIF.
Thank you.
Sorry. That during the life of the TIF, some of these funds can only be used in the downtown TIF district. And one of the programs that we can use or that we can create inside the district is a facade improvement grant. And that was adopted by the council during your last meeting. The program does include the option to have a loan or grant program with some of the TIF funds that can be applied citywide. And as has been discussed with the council, in the past, we've had several businesses that have come to the city and said, I'd like to participate in the facade program. I'd like to put up a brand new sign out in front of my store, a big freestanding sign. And we've had to say, you're not in the TIF district. We can't use any of these grant funds for you for that purpose. And so the intent, as I believe the council made clear last meeting, was can we create a similar facade program for outside of the TIF district, still consistent with the approved TIF program that the state's given us, and mirror the facade improvement grant program that's only applicable inside the downtown TIF, but make it something similar and available to businesses outside of the TIF district. This is simply a first read tonight. I definitely appreciate the comments that were submitted by Mr. Aiken tonight, raising some concerns about all businesses versus some of the strings that might be attached, and as he calls, possible loopholes. These are some things I think are good to look at and maybe lay out a little bit more. But the real question is, out of the amount of funds that we have available in the TIF district, we have accumulated over $200,000 of funds that were slated for loans. And some of that's being used by the Caribou Economic Growth Council. We have other funds that are sitting in a revolving loan fund that right now are not being lent out or are available, but we haven't had a request for those funds. And those are managed through CEGC as well. It's that same pot of money that, according to the TIF program, we could use some of that as grant money. And so that's one of the questions that we need to have answered before this particular program could be instituted, is how much of this pot of money are we going to apply toward grants, And it also would have to be administered through CEGC according to the program, but there's still a lot of questions that we need to resolve. Right now, we simply took what was the facade improvement program, put a different name on it, and made it more applicable across the city, but there are some other considerations we probably ought to make.
And that's the purpose of a first read, is get the discussion going. No decisions have been made up. There's a need, as you have identified, from businesses who have asked us, and the only problem is the hurdle that has stopped it has been they just weren't located in a TIF district. And we're trying to apply some of these funds to that. Mr. Aiken brought up a good question, about somebody working out of their home. That's a good point. Are we still on the same, we've had a discussion, but it was possibly that we were just going to allocate so much money a year, and that we were going to have submit your application, some kind of a ranking deal where if there was more applicants than there was money, we would have a way of grading it, or some kind of a. Was I just talking to you that about, or has the council?
That's basically how this program is set up.
Correct. And we're still trying to, we have not nailed any particulars, we just have this concept. Did you want to say something? Oh, okay.
Oh, so, understanding correctly, we have to set the criteria up along at the same time we approve the amount of money that we're gonna use? Is that, you can't just say, okay, we're gonna do this, then fund it later? It kinda has to.
You can set the money aside later, but you really need to have the criteria up front so everybody knows this is what we're going to go through, the questions we're going to ask when we look to distribute these funds. Whatever funds the council says they're going to use, or however much, we need to know the program guidelines ahead of time.
So the way I see this, and I think this is the perfect time of year, if we continue figuring out what we want for guidelines on this, and we're going into a budget season very shortly, we would be able to, if we kind of had that streamlined as far as what we want to do for the program. That makes sense. And then we fund it kind of simultaneously when we do it together, but that's just my opinion. So I'm just saying maybe we should continue,
Right.
instead of first read, moving forward, working on the guidelines, and then as the budget allows or we decide. So that's all I have to say about that.
And we welcome any other comments from anybody in Caribou about this program and how we could better set it up to meet a need. That's what we're trying to go after here. We're trying to go after that need that we've sensed from some of our business people.
We do have a lot of money in that revolving loan fund, so.
Yeah. It's a program has been underutilized, and we're just trying to figure out how to utilize it and meet some of the questions that people are asking us about it. That's all.
One of the issues we face with the funding that we have available to us now is, in a sense, we are competing with the Northern Maine Development Commission and CEGC for economic development loans that are available to our businesses. The NMDC, they receive pots of money from the federal government through different programs, and they're required to loan that out or lose it. CEGC, they've built up some loan funds as well that they're looking to loan out. And now we have the city's revolving loan fund, and businesses can go to each place, if you will, and say, who's going to give me the better deal, or what are the strings attached to everything, the federal dollars, they're gonna have certain strings that people are gonna have to abide by if they use those dollars. The CEGC is gonna be a lot more flexible because they're in the private market. And from the city side, we haven't tied down really what is the process we're going to utilize with our revolving loan fund. What kind of rate are we gonna tie ourselves to? We have talked about these in the past, and we did set up that CEGC will manage our funds, but you also have CEGC trying to loan out their own funds as well. And so we're just trying to make a balance and letting businesses know there is a lot of money out there. There is some opportunities, and if we want to create a little more, even more flexibility with our funds, we can do that as maybe a bridge to some of the other funding sources that are out there.
Am I correct that we're trying to set up some grant funds? Okay.
Right.
There's not much competition out there for giving away money. Just so you let you know. I mean, I don't think Northern Maine Development or anybody's going to care if we give away a little bit of money. So, I guess let's go back to what Jody asked. Let's start with what would be a recommendation for a pot of money per year that we should loan out of this? So I guess at the next council meeting, could we have a total of the monies that we have available for this type of venture from the different avenues that we have?
And in the package, you'll see I've got a memo that indicates we generally are sitting about $10,000 a year toward the facade improvement program. And if through the budget process, as Councilor Smith has indicated, the council wants to reserve $10,000 towards this grant program to citywide, we can do that through the budget process. But there is, if we want to tap existing revolving loan funds, or we simply want to tap future TIF funds coming in, we can do that too.
I thought we were going to tap existing funds that we already had.
Where this wouldn't be implemented until next year, you can tap future funds rather than anything that's existing.
Oh, okay.
So we can, there's a lot of options.
But we could tap those existing funds if we wanted to.
Yes, you could.
Okay. Okay.
Very interesting.
Yep. 10,000 for the facade downtown right now is what we're putting in annually. Roughly.
12,000,
Give or take. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Okay. And those funds can only be used in downtown.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead.
But as mentioned in that earlier letter, Reagan, could that money be used in town too if somebody had a home business? Even if it was outside the TIF district? Is that really fall into that criteria? I know there were some concerns with things that need to be addressed potentially, but
Potentially.
they could potentially use it the way it's written now.
Right.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. No.
Did you say could potentially use it to paint their house? I had a hard time to hear you, but
If
we're talking theoretically here, I'm sure. But
theoretically, if somebody's running for instance, the real estate offices across the street, over by Hannaford, if somebody's using it as their office and they're living upstairs, but they need a paint job, they have a storefront, they're on Main Street, it's a highly visible corridor, and if they wanted to redo the siding on their place, technically they could apply for the funds.
so that definitely is going to be addressed. Obviously, as we move forward with language in this.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay. 9B, sale of city-owned property at 398 West Presque Isle Road. Dennis.
Councilors, this property is one of our tax-acquired properties. It was put out to bid earlier this year. The city's tax-acquired property policy indicates that once a property has been through the bid process and either no bids are received or bids were rejected, then the property falls under the purview of the manager to be able to go out and negotiate and discuss offers with any interested party. And so we have an offer on this particular property. Where we are still in a point of negotiation with this, we could do an executive session. Again, as has been indicated by previous discussion, it could be held in open meeting as well. I don't think the party would be opposed to it. It's pretty straightforward. If you want to do it in open session, we can do that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm confused. It said real estate development, or this one under 9B says 48 West Presque Isle Road. The one we're looking at says 398 Presque Isle Road.
398 West Presque Isle Road.
Okay, well, this says 48 West Presque Isle Road on our sheet, right here. 48 West Presque Isle Road.
Must be an old one.
I think you've got
Okay,
the draft
this-
agenda.
This one says tax acquired property at 398 Presque Isle Road. On that page right here, this one, right here. I know this is on that
West
Presque
Presque
Isle,
Isle.
yeah, I know that because I know that property. But it's right here, it's 398 Presque Isle Road. So we don't have two properties to look at tonight, right? I mean,
This is
Okay.
west, just the west, 398 West Presque Isle Road.
Yeah.
property.
Okay.
that we're looking
Okay.
at.
Oh, here's Route 1 over here.
okay. So this is West Presque Isle Road and it's at,
Oh, yeah.
okay, so who's 48? That's nothing, is that a,
That was the draft agenda sent out earlier.
Okay.
That was
so,
the-
okay, 398 then, okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was just, didn't know which one we were, if we had two properties.
Well, tell us about the sale.
So when this was put out to bid, we listed the property as for a minimum bid of $4,800. And again, no bids were received. The adjacent property was purchased recently, and the owner of that property is in the process now of fixing up their home. And they are interested in acquiring this property so that they can fix it up as well and use it as a rental. And so at this point, they have tendered, if you will, an earnest money check for 10% of the price of the $4,800, and would like to know if the council's interested in selling the property to them. This particular home, if you think back to the 110 Washburn Road situation where we were going to require that agreement, and they had to go through a process of inspections and posting of bid or bonds and whatnot, this is another one of those homes. Last year, Kent went inside and took a picture of a snowdrift that was accumulating in the back room due to roof issues. The garage itself is in very poor condition. And so what we've been talking with them about is if they'll enter into a consent agreement similar to what we proposed with the 110 Washburn Road project, that we didn't see any issues with that, and they're offering the minimum bid amount. So really it is a very simple position where we're at on this one.
They've tendered 10% of the 4,800, and they're prepared to pay the 4,800.
They've tendered a check of $480.
And they're ready to pay the remainder.
So is the house livable? No. because of the snowdrift. I take it that's the meaning of that story.
Right.
And they're agreeable to the consent?
They recognize that if they can't fix it up, they'll have to tear it down. But they want to have a go at fixing it up and making it habitable, which means they'll have to get all the inspections and all the sign-offs for certificate of occupancy.
We've had properties in the past and people have, I'm not saying these people are, but people have said they were going to do things if they had this property, not only to find out 3 years later it ended up back in our lap. And the solution at that was somebody should give some money, pony up some money to fix it, and as it gets fixed, that money would be released back to the people that gave us the money in case 3 or 4 years down the road it didn't get fixed. I'm not saying that's the case here, but isn't that, do you remember hearing these kind of
That's
conversations?
the gist of the consent agreement is we will sell that to them, but they'll have to put a bond up for, with the 110 Washburn Road, it was $7,000 that we would hold in addition to a pre-signed quitclaim deed back to the city that if they don't perform in a certain time frame of getting the house fixed up, then the city gets the property back plus the bond to tear it down. They're indicating that they would like to go in before the snow flies this year, put a new roof on it, get the windows redone and the doors, so that somebody can actually be inside in the wintertime and continue to fix it up from there.
Saves us tearing it down and we get the bond money back. I'm all for waiting for the time period. Otherwise, we're going to sit on our expired list and deteriorate more. And then we'll still, hopefully, we may end up tearing it down anyway. Hopefully, in this situation, we won't. So I'll make a motion that we sell it to them for $4,800 with the consent agreement.
Second.
Moved by Jody, seconded by Nicole to accept the bid of $4,800, was it?
Don't add that we need the city manager to make the consent agreement.
With the city manager making the consent agreement.
And whatever else needs to be done.
Doug?
Struggling to hear you. Was this including what Dennis had just said?
Yes.
We've got our bond and we're protected the citizen. Okay, good enough.
That's what you meant by the consent. That was
I have him. I'll speak up. Sorry. Let me get this over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That's one of those. Old business, discussion possible, 10A, discussion possible action regarding ordinance number 4, 2020 series amending.
You've already taken action. on
Yeah,
this.
we just did that one. We jumped the gun. My fault there. Report and discussion by mayor and council members. I had a few things I wanted to say about Mrs. Jondros. We did not form a committee on the ambulance at the last meeting. My comment is, if we form a committee, I was going to ask Wilford to be on it. I was just trying to take the wind out of the sails and put that baby to rest after 20 minutes. Nobody, no committee was made, nobody was named this imaginary committee. And I don't know how these things get started. I really don't know how they get started. It's amazing to me. But it is what it is. Any comments from anybody on the council? Joan?
Do we have a resource officer this year? Wasn't there some talk that there may not be, but Kevin is still the resource officer?
The school
I guess-
district is still committed to paying their portion of the resource officer
Okay.
wages and benefits.
So does that how many officers are we down? Are we gonna be down another one because he's gonna be the resource officers? Are we at full capacity with the police department, or are we not?
I know we just hired another gentleman from down in Massachusetts. I think we're fully staffed as far as the department needs, plus, if you will, the school resource officer position.
Okay, so you did,
Another one of them stories, Joan. It's
Well,
just
this
another
isn't-
one of them
no, this
stories that
isn't
we're
a s-
cutting everybody and we're short-staffed,
Well,
and these things are just not true.
this was not a story, this was my own question about the resource officer, because they're going back to school, and I know at one time that they spoke about maybe there wouldn't be, but they're funding that. But I do remember that we were down 1 or 2 police officers. That was not just a story, that
Oh,
was
but
fact.
3 people left all at once.
Yeah,
And you
but-
just don't fill it right back up.
No, I know that, but there was talk about, in this council chamber at meetings, talk about not funding one of them, not rehiring back one of them, to save some money, that they were gonna not fill that position. That was back a few weeks or months ago or whatever. So I just wanted to see if they had been rehired and if there was enough people, the fully staffed police department.
Any other comments, Doug?
You have 4 for the manager. Dennis, probably been, when the school budget was passed, I asked for you to reach out and get the information from the school on the supposed $1.2 million in savings that was posted in the newspaper that the taxpayers were gonna save. Have you gotten anything on that as to where that money is, what was saved, getting rid of the building so far prior to opening the new school? Have you got anything on that?
The superintendent did provide a presentation during the budget process that outlines some of that. I'll reach out to him again and see.
Number 2, I just wanted to touch on Washburn Street again. The project up there that all fell through, that's back in our hands. And is that slated to be, did we discuss, we didn't discuss doing anything with it. It's back in our hands, but it's still up there as an,
It is, that's one of the manager report items I have tonight, just to
Okay.
jump to that.
nope, I don't want to take your wind away, you
Okay.
deal with it. The 3rd item was just to touch base quickly on the firehouse roof bid process. Have we heard from Sewell how that's coming? The verbiage to get that out in bid process?
We're finalizing the documents that will be advertised in the newspaper next week.
And we'll get a draft.
Yes.
sent to us then. My last one, I don't know if I should be asking him about the pop-up.
Yeah.
Should we wait? Or Mayor, Mr. Mayor, what do you want me to do with that?
Bring it up. Bring it up.
Bring it up. We have the
Bring it
junkyard
up.
out on 89 over Dorsey Land Hill, the other side. I know we've talked extensively on it, the do's, the things we can and can't do. Have we made any headway? Have we, on behalf of the taxpayers out there, we've got to act. We've got to do something.
At this point in time, we have served summons on those that we can find that are involved with the property. And we're waiting for dates on those to be shored up and then be able to bring action appropriately through the courts if they will pick up the matter. We're still continuing to work through the other state agencies, Department of Motor Vehicles, the DEP, and not getting much from those potential opportunities.
So just the summation is we're still pretty much in the same pool of water we were in.
We have a court date for October 3rd.
Oh, we do? Well, hooray. Wonderful. Perfect. Hey, it's one step forward.
So Ken just spoke from the chairs, but October 3rd is the court date? Okay.
And that is is that for the other, obviously the city and the owner or whoever to show up at that time?
That would be the occupant of the property.
Okay. Thanks, no, that's great, I'm moving forward.
I don't think bringing the person that lives in that trailer is going to solve anything in the long run. That's just my opinion. I'm the kind of guy that wants to get in trouble over this one. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't mind having my back put against the wall on this one. Because if we can't stop this, then what do we have codes for anyways? It seems like our codes are only designed for those honest people. And the ones that are doing the damage don't care. Because it's almost as if they know we don't have any teeth in this code thing we got going. I had a private conversation with Dennis, and I'll let my fellow counselors and the people in Caribou know. If someone from some state agency tells us that they can't get involved until there's actual damage done, I would like to see that in writing. Because when I get in trouble, I want to be able to show the judge we tried. We notified the state authority, and they said they couldn't get involved until the damage was done. That's the story we've been told. That's not good enough for me. And if that means sending this state agency a certified letter from this city and they choose not to respond, that's still good enough for me. We're trying. There's a few other things I could say I got to stop because I want to get in trouble over this one. I want to do something aggressive. And if people want to have an issue with it, fair enough. But that's not tolerable. We just had a gentleman in here talking about blight. We've been working 2 years on trying to get this blight thing up and going, and we're slowly getting through it. It's not as easy as people think. But we're down to the point where we start to need some teeth in our code. And that's what we got to have, is some teeth. We want to act. But nobody's giving me, a city councilor, the tools to act with. And this is what's bothering me. I don't know why I have to get in trouble in doing what I think is right. But I can see it's coming. So, and here's the message. If you don't do it with this, then that propagates more misbehavior in honoring our code book, to where you get to the point where someone is complaining about grass clippings on their driveway. So, this is a big one. What's going on out there is ridiculous.
I just want to ask, after October 3rd, you said, can we move to option B that we discussed in the council?
What's option B? Option B.
Was the, I can't remember the word, no, take it,
Eminent domain.
eminent domain. Something's got to be done.
We can talk about it.
Yeah,
I guess,
because,
I mean, there's financial ramifications,
we know that.
and we got to look into that.
I can
But
only
short of-
say that if I was folks living next to that, I'd be some furious on this. Anyway, I just think that, yeah, why not go to the October 3rd? And then maybe,
Knowing all the characters that are involved and the way this thing is going down, I think all the Caribou residents are upset by this. You don't have to live next to it. And that's why I got a feeling that people want this cleaned up. And that's what we're here for. is to address Mr. Bacon's request and to address things like this. We're representing them. And it's a shame. But anything else? Okay. Moving on to city manager's report. Dennis.
So the good news to start with tonight is with regards to the Bird's Eye plant. We received back the test results on all of the pits that were dug out there that we did some exploring on, and they all came back with next to negligible traces of contamination, to the point that we can use the property if the state will sign off on the testing and the work that's been done so far, that we would be able to use the property in its nearly current state for commercial, industrial, open space purposes. There is still some PCB that needs to be cleaned up. We know that there's some asbestos work that needs to be done. With a little bit more excavation, we could even have the property ready for any type of residential development mixed in with these other types of uses. And so right now we're drafting a plan that we would be submitting to the state for their final approval. And if they will approve that plan, which includes these other minor cleanup issues, then the state would essentially cover us for any other potential things that might get dug up on the property. And so, as it appears, we do have $75,000 of CDBG funds that we can put toward the additional cleanup effort that's needed. We will have to put that out to bid. These are federal dollars, and so we have to follow federal guidelines, Davis-Bacon wages, surveys, and different things. But our first step is to finish this report to the state, get that submitted, get their sign off, and hopefully get this all cleaned up. We had anticipated needing to file for some brownfield funding through the EPA. That looks like, rather than put additional federal strings on us, it may be better for us to utilize the funds that we have, use the CDBG funds, just finish up these last few bits of cleanup and have the site ready to go, and begin looking at the master planning for the site, having some neighborhood meetings, some discussions with some business owners, and really looking at what is the potential of this property and how can we start laying things out and marketing it more fully. A big hindrance has been the environmental side, but we can thankfully not have as much as we thought to be involved with this site taken care of. That leads to, I'm just going to jump down to the other major one I've got is the power plants. The EPA funding that we thought might be available for the power plants is not going to be available because of the current Merlin One standing as a business entity. They still exist. Therefore, we don't have a two-owner separation, which is the eligibility requirement for some of the federal cleanup funds. And so we're looking at what are some options as far as the timing of Merlin One declaring that they no longer exist. In that case, we would become eligible. There are some other funds that we're looking at to maybe help in the creation of what's called a Phase 1 environmental report, and getting some costs for that, just so we can see what we might be looking at to get that property ready for a more palatable property, I guess, for development. Under administrative projects, I just want to highlight 6 of these really quick. As the council is aware, and as I emailed out, we did receive a recall affidavit. I've provided the council a copy of that, a recall of Council Morell. We'll continue to provide information. The city clerk, Danielle, is preparing the petition forms. She has 3 days from Friday, 3 business days from Friday in which to have those out the door. And so I know she's working on that, and we hope tomorrow or Thursday we'll have it done.
They'll be ready for Thursday morning.
Okay. Thursday morning, those petition forms will be available, and we'll make sure that you've all got copies of those so you see what is involved with that as well. The process really moving forward is the petitioners will have 60 business days from when they receive the petitions in which to go out and get, as we've calculated, 1,112 signatures of registered voters, and we just have to wait to see if they're able to make that happen. Moving on, the fire structural study, as it was mentioned, we're putting that out to bid next week. Teague Park, the tennis nets are up on a couple of the tennis courts over there. We did a walkthrough, what we considered a final walkthrough with the contractor. We made a punch list of all the items that we saw, and the contractor now is supposed to go through that punch list. It's still, even though it's the city's punch list that we gave them, we gave it to the clerk of the works to process through the RSU hands, because it's not our project. It's not really ours to say this needs to be done. It's for the school district and the state to say this needs to be done, but they were certainly welcoming our input into that process. So things are looking fairly good at the Teague Park, but there are some things that need to be cleaned up. We've been working through facility maintenance plans on all of our major facilities. We recently received a report from a boiler inspector with regards to the boiler system in this building, and the indication is that major repairs are needed, not only with the boilers but the piping system from the boilers. I know some of that piping has holes in it, rust holes, that's spewing exhaust into the boiler room when those are turned on. We have a typical maintenance provider for our boiler system, Adams Heating. He indicates that they're 30 years old. There's no parts that are available for them. They stopped making these things over 10 years ago, and we're getting bids now for complete boiler replacements. One of the issues that we have is with a new boiler system that the chimney that the current boilers are using is not lined, and with a new system that has to be lined. One of the options they're looking at is maybe getting rid of the pellet boiler connection to the chimney, because there is a new liner associated with the pellet boiler, and maybe tapping into that for the new boilers so that we don't have to have the additional cost of running a new liner in the chimney. We'll bring more information to you as we get it on this. There was a request for information about the 60 Access Highway funding and the closing of that project, and so we sold that building, gross sale price at $130,000. We had $8,574 in closing costs. The amount reserved for CDBG blight cleanup was $75,000, which is now in separate reserve account. The amount that's currently been applied to uncollected payments is roughly $9,700. We are working with the attorney, our city's attorney, to begin collecting some of those funds, and the remainder amount has just been applied to the general fund revenues as city property sales. That amounts to $36,738, and it just shows now under one of our general revenue lines in the budget.
Just under the general revenue line, excuse me?
We have a specific revenue line, city property sales, under the general government Fund 10 account. And so that's...
Is that the same account that like when we sell tax acquired properties that it goes into?
When we sell tax acquired properties, there's A portion of the funds go to pay off act taxes. We're also required by our city policy to set aside a certain percentage of tax-acquired property sale funds toward cleanup of properties. And then the remainder amount does go into the same line.
Into the same one.
Right.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
There was discussion earlier tonight about lighting up the town a little bit more. We have put a bid out. There's only one electrician that's currently licensed and has the certifications to install streetlights on Emera or Versant poles. And so we've reached out to them to give us quotes on lighting up 5 intersections in the city, which public safety has identified as being major concerns. Those include South Main and York Street, Dorcas and Harvest Road, the intersection of Marshall and Newton, the West Presque Isle Road and Buck Road, and also Outer York Street and Mitchell Road. And so if you drive through any of those intersections at night, it's very difficult to see that there is an intersection there. And so we're starting out with these 5 intersections and seeing what additional funds we might have available to light up some other key intersections around town. That's all I wanted to highlight tonight, unless there's other questions.
I just had a quick question on and I know that it's not the city's responsibility, but the lights on the bridge have been out for quite a while. And I know several people that have gone to the state to try to get them turned back on, and nothing's been happening. And so somebody, can't remember who it was the other day, asked me if I could ask you if you've talked to anybody, about the lights on the bridge. They're all out. There's not a light on that bridge at all. It is pitch dark.
The lights are controlled and maintained by the state.
Right, I knew that. And
We've
so,
Versant approached us. They've indicated that it is a problem with the circuitry beyond the meter. So it's not on Versant's side of the system. It is after the meter. And they know what needs to be taken care of, but it is a state issue that they need to pull the trigger on and see that it.
and you haven't heard if they're gonna, because I know a couple of people that have tried to get through to the state themselves to see if, they could find out anything. They haven't heard anything at all. So.
When we started putting up the new street lights, and they are LED lights, aren't they not?
Yes.
So I don't know why John doesn't think we haven't been working on lighting up the John Morrill, why we haven't been trying to get this town lit up. And this program has been in place. We were going to just replace the current lights. And when that got done, which it did, then we were going to go back and look at the trouble spots. And it had to do with contractual issues at the time that we signed up with
Realtor Energy.
those people. Our obligation to them is over with right now, is it not?
We're still currently in a contract they operate a website that we can go on to and click on a light if there's an issue, and it automatically rings to them to send out the maintenance crew. But that contract we anticipate will expire this year, and then we can work directly with.
We're waiting for this process to play out so that, well, for resource reasons, money reasons, and things of that nature. So we're working on it, and it's coming. Once again, government does not work fast. It's a slow, steady pace. But at the end of 2 or 3 years, you get something done. And that's what we're working on. 12 months ago, I made mention that those lights were out on the bridge. And I asked, and the answer given to me was, we will notify the state. Kind of reminds you of the people that tell us we got to have damage before we can report something. Doesn't it? I've got an issue with myself going on out there with the state, and it's crickets trying to get this thing done. And it's as if they're using this virus as an excuse not to do work. There, I said it. Now watch the keyboard light up. So good luck on the bridge. But it is the state lights.
Yes.
We're to notify them. We did. And we will again. It's a shame. I can't get over it. It's a shame. Reports by staff and appointed officials. Staff.
Actually, I do have a couple.
Oh, okay, a new one.
I got a couple, and they're actually pertinent to our conversations we've had tonight.
Good.
So we've noticed this uptick in interest in our tax-acquired properties. You might be following along in the news or in the paper that there is a surge of interest from outside. So these might not necessarily be our typical landlords and flippers. The calls I'm getting are coming from San Antonio, Texas, and they're coming from Colorado, and they come from Massachusetts and even southern Maine. So these aren't the typical people we see that these properties roll over in. So I'm pretty impressed by some of the people I've talked to. They seem to want to come and fix these properties. So I'm encouraged. Regarding the blight, we talked about blight there this evening. So what we have done, I think we did a good job this year. We tore down the existing properties on the list. That got held up when the River Road had the issues out there. We tore down those properties first. We completed the existing list. It took us a couple years. Government moves slow. And now we're moving forward. So now what we've done is we're providing ourselves some tools for our blight initiative. And for this conversation, it's twofold. We're dusting off our nuisance property ordinance, working with Penny Thompson, Chief Susi, Chief Cahagan, the manager, and myself. We've come up with a good model for these pop-up junkyards, these non-boarding boarding houses, these places that are loading up with junk in the yard and garbage. And on the other side, we have dangerous buildings. We'll do the same thing with the dangerous buildings. These are actually state statutes that we can use in our favor. So we can go after these problems. We can go eminent domain. We can go to court. Probably do both at the same time. But attack these problems that are where the blight are hiding deeper issues, as Mr. Morrell would say, the plague. So there is slow, steady progress.
And Ken, I appreciate it, and I want to make it very clear that any of my comments tonight are not reflective on any individuals that work in any type of government setting. It's the system itself that you all find yourself into.
No,
I just get frustrated.
Folks out there are frustrated, and we're frustrated too, but we're working towards an end.
And I want to thank you very much. No, I do. It was a good report. The report that you and the committee, the Blight Committee, put together was an excellent report, which followed an excellent report from Paul Camping and that committee that they were formed. And now it's just, we're into the teeth type mode situation, and everybody's to be commended. We had this virus thing, communications got a little topsy-turvy, but it's going. It is. Staff. Danielle, I hope you don't mind me doing that to you.
That's fine. Okay, so absentee ballots. Heard this from Jane every week during this time of year. Everybody's getting 6 applications at home easily. You only need to send in 1, or you can call and not mail them. We'll do it over the phone. We have well over 600. So we've been plugging away at those and getting ready for the rest. We've successfully created our first ballot without Jane. That was a process.
Yeah.
Dennis was my helper, which is good. But we've got a lot of stuff going on. We are closed Tuesday next week in our office. We have Clerks Networking Day. So there's a good chance if somebody calls, we won't get right back to them within a half hour. We're very busy, but that's just so everybody knows. We are closed that day, but we'll be reopened the next day as normal.
I might have missed it. When is the projected time that ballots will be done?
The
Or
ballots?
or sent out?
We don't have them until 30 days before the election, so first week of October, we're going to mail them.
First week of October, they get mailed out.
Yep.
In November, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Do you have those documents here tonight
Which ones?
for the absentee?
Yes. I can get you some. Okay. And we did have one candidate withdraw from the council race. He came in today, signed a letter. Wilford Martin has withdrawn.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Dennis,
Can I go one more time?
you can.
I mentioned that I was going to say something about the 110 Washburn Road, and I didn't do that. So the status on that is we notified the prior owner that they had 30 days in which to go into that home, clean out anything that they wanted. That 30 days expires September 14th. And I've talked with our Public Works. They're kind of been waiting for transition mode to looking at snow things, and so they said they do have some equipment that would be available to go in as a city staff and tear that home down, get it cleaned off the site before the snow flies this year, similar to what they did on the River Road. So that right now is the game plan that we've set.
Good deal. It was nice to get that Fenderson building taken care of, Fenderson Street building, after all those years. And it's a start, right? One step at a time. Next thing you know, you walked a mile, you know? So. Okay, any other questions or comments? Chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session. Dennis, did you want to do any one of these first, or collective bargaining under 405.6.d?
We already did one of them, right? So we just had the collective bargaining, or is there another one on there I missed?
There's a economic development issue, I think.
Oh, okay. That's,
But let's do 405.6.d first, collective bargaining. Chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Moved by Doug, seconded by Joan. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great evening. Good night.
Yeah, I think we don't have anything we have to sign today.